Curtain Network.
Pique the Pickens!
Hey, Pittsburgh Steelers fans. Welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Preview. I'm Jeff Hartman, one of the three hosts here of the show. We're getting ready, geared up for week 3, Sunday Night Football, another flipping primetime game. It means we're going to be up late. Nonetheless, joining me as always, Dave Schofield. What's up, Dave?
Well, Jeff, Bryan, I really hope that you all were ready to do quite the memorable show, because we have to do our part for Steelers Nation so they can remember the 21st night of September.
Oh, yeah. I saw that on Twitter a bunch today. But yeah,
I did not see that. That's great.
Bryan Davis, welcome to the show.
Love it. I love me some earth, love me some wind. And I tell you what, I'm cool with fire too when you put them all together.
Especially when you put the word Canada after it.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Wow.
yeah.
What, all I'm going to say is, if you ask me how I'm doing this week, all I can say is, wow, disarray after a win. Gosh, wow. Imagine if they lose that game. What we're doing right now.
Let's not. That would not be good. Not be good for business.
We would have lost the earth and the wind.
Yeah. Nonetheless, this show is geared up to get you all, the listeners or viewers, ready to go for the upcoming game. And this is an interesting one. I listened to Dave Schofield's Stat Geek podcast this morning, Thursday morning, where he outlined there's a lot of similarities between these two teams. But before we get into any of that, I do want to bring up some news. It's what everyone's talking about. Tomorrow, Friday, at 7 a.m. on the FFSN NFL feed. You can find us anywhere we get your podcast just by searching FFSN NFL. Myself and Wesley Coleman did an opinion or fact on this. And it's how everyone's talking about whether Minkah Fitzpatrick's hit that ended Nick Chubb's season, hopefully it's just his season, was dirty or not. And so you can hear my thoughts on that tomorrow on that podcast, but I want to get your all's take on it. Dave, what do you think?
Well, I'll agree with Brown's safety. Is it Grant Delpit, who, in my opinion, was the best defender on the field for the Browns on Monday night? He did not think it was a dirty hit. It was what defenders have to try to do now in order to stop the offense in the NFL. Can't hit them too high, and if you aim in the middle, you're probably going to get trucked. And Chubb had been trucking a lot of people. It was not that he was trying to take him out. He wasn't trying. I mean, we've seen people take out knees. We've seen, I'm not saying in any recent time, but we've also had bounties and things like that. It was nothing like that. It was just, hey, trying to make a football play. And it just sucks that it happened.
Bryan, what's your take?
Kimo von Oelhoffen was definitely not a dirty player.
Mm-hmm.
But man, Bengals fans for the longest time thought he was. Ryan Shazier was not a dirty player. But Bengals fans after that playoff game thought he was, to the extent where they did not give him the treatment that their fans gave DeMar Hamlin. They did not give him the treatment that Pittsburgh fans gave Nick Chubb. And that was a situation when we were watching that and we were afraid for a man's life, so when we're watching it and, I still get rankled when I think about how classy Cincinnati fans were said to have been in January when that happened with the Buffalo game. And I think back to that. Pittsburgh fans, look, as soon as they heard it, they groaned. I'm sure your brother, Rich, Dave, can say, how devastating it was to see. And everybody was talking in that game how great Nick Chubb is. And I'm one of those guys. I've always been a Nick Chubb guy. I've never heard any of us say anything bad about Nick Chubb, except for too bad he's on the Browns.
Yeah.
But you know what? You don't really have time to think and you don't realize exactly where you're going when you're making that hit either. This is a football play and all of these guys do it. This is the unlucky hit that Nick Chubb took, and it's a shame that he took it. And we have seen Pittsburgh players take that kind of hit We have seen so many different things. It sucks when it happens. I'm old enough to remember Joe Theismann on Monday Night Football, and they showed that replay over and over and over again, and it was sickening. It really was. As a 15-year-old, 14-year-old watching that, I was like, oh, gosh. Yeah, that's the narrative right now, especially with Browns fans, and then you have some other media members coming out and saying that it's dirty. And then, look, memo to Ryan Clark. We don't need your help. Nobody needs your help if you're going to talk and say that, because what you initially said was fantastic when you said, hey, we're all players. Doesn't matter the color of the jersey. It doesn't matter anything. That's human beings. And then he said, no, it wasn't a dirty play. And I go, oh, yeah, no, I meant to hurt people from time to time. Don't say that kind of stuff. Look, those guys are warriors out there. Nobody has ever accused Minkah Fitzpatrick of being dirty until it happens high profile on Monday Night Football. And when it happens there, now, if that happened to a player that wasn't as highly regarded as the guy they were talking in a graphic about being in the Hall of Fame already, being Hall of Fame worthy already, it's not, he's not accused of being dirty here, but it's Nick Chubb.
Minkah Fitzpatrick was in front of the media today, and he said, I had like a split-second decision on what I'm going to do. He said, anyone that's ever tried to tackle Nick Chubb high, it doesn't end well. So you have to go low if you want to try and keep this guy out of the end zone. Now, some people are saying that he was already tied up. I think it comes down to intent. I don't think that Minkah Fitzpatrick was intending to somehow knock Nick Chubb, even if it was just out of the game, not to end his season. Let me bring up another player, and I want to think about intent, like I just said. I'll say one player's name. You tell me dirty or not. Hines Ward. Dave.
That was a lot more difficult than talking about this one.
Keith Rivers.
Yeah.
The intent there was to decapitate him. That was the intent.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Dave? Hines, intent?
Well, here, the thing with Hines is, how often do you have to make a quote unquote dirty move to be a dirty player? I'm sorry, when you talk about somebody like Avontes Burfict, he was playing dirty probably more than 50% of the time, But Hines Ward, I don't know if it was that much. I would say people that made the argument for it, I'm not going to say that I could disprove the argument, but I'm not ready to go there myself. That's one of those I'd rather just not touch.
Bryan, what do you think? Hines Ward?
Absolutely not. Now, before I continue, is this exercise going to continue? Are we talking about other Pittsburgh Steelers
No, because
players?
Vontae's perfect. You can. I think we all know the answer to that. You could even go back to Jack Tatum. I think we would all know the answer to that one as well.
Now, to be objective, though, Debo was more dirty than what Hines Ward was.
Yeah,
and I'll even go as far to say, oh my gosh, this is going to be sacrilege.
How about Peasy?
He was dirtier. This is real sacrilege
hold on,
when I say this.
So with James Harrison, you're talking like the Massaquoi hit, the Colt McCoy hit, right? Those were like intent. What else?
When I say intent on his end, I think it was to knock him out of the game. I'm not thinking to hurt him, but they're
right, yeah.
So yeah, and that could be construed as, and I said dirty-er. I'm not saying dirty. And this is where my sacrilege comes in. Remember I did all those retro shows and all that stuff. Joe Green, man, he was trying to knock you out of the game, and he had some crotch shots, some punches to the crotch, some dirty stuff there too. But he's a Steeler legend. I love him, but call it like it is. Yeah, Joe Green was dirty too. A lot of these players have got to play to keep guys out of the end zone. They've got to play to make stops. If they knock players out, yeah, sometimes it happens. Am I saying that Am I saying that it's intent to maim? No, absolutely not. But if you're defining dirty with Minkah Fitzpatrick, he doesn't have a caseload against him. Hines Ward was a guy that was playing aggressive. Debo was playing aggressive, but he was fine with knocking you out.
I think it comes down some of the times. There's a key moment, I think, in NFL history when it comes to these things, and it's probably not what you think. It's Bountygate. It's how things were treated before Bountygate and after Bountygate, and the whole idea of that. Those kind of things were actually what players were trying to do then, and it's really not the same anymore, I think.
Yeah, and the thing is, the Saints got busted for Bountygate. The Ravens did it with the Steelers.
Oh yeah,
they had a bounty on Hines.
It was open. It was open. They were just
bragged.
Absolutely,
and they didn't get touched.
Yeah. Look, aggressive is a good term. I think we're speaking the same language. If Hines Ward got a shot, if he got an opportunity to take his shot, he was taking his shot. So when he cracked back and broke Keith Rivers' jaw, he saw an opportunity. On Monday Night Football, when Ed Reed wasn't looking and he blindsided him and then started calling for the trainers immediately, he saw his shot and he took it. The game was different then. I think we can all admit that. But at the same time, there's people, oh my gosh, Baltimore Ravens fans still say Hines Ward is the dirtiest player to ever wear an NFL jersey.
It's not that.
Oh, they
hate him. They hate him.
There's a Baltimore Sun poll like a couple years ago, 10 years after he retired. They still hate Hines more than anybody.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The question, though, is, let me ask you this real quick.
Sure.
If he wore purple, how much do we hate Hines Ward?
Oh, we would hate him. It's just like Vontaze
and we call him dirty.
Bengals fans stuck up for Vontaze Burfict all those years when he was just cheap shot after low hit, high. It's just disgusting. I think Vontaze Burfict was one of the dirtiest players I've ever seen in my life. I didn't see Joe Green kicking people in the crotch, but I know he did. So, okay, let's move on. Let's talk about this upcoming game. Let's talk about the injury report first. Dave, you have what's going on Thursday between the Raiders and the Steelers?
Yes, I do. The Steelers, they ended up with 8 players on their injury report on Wednesday, and it was the same 8 today. So the good news is there was nobody new added. Hopefully there won't be anyone new added tomorrow. All 8 yesterday did not practice. 6 of those 8 returned today in some capacity. The 2 who did not practice were Gunnar O with the concussion. 2 days of not practicing, he's out. He's done. I mean, if you can't practice for 2 days, even in a limited fashion, you're not coming back from.
You might have been done anyways.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, this makes it easier to have him inactive, and you don't have to make a decision. But I mean, seriously, you want him to be healthy. You don't want someone to have to deal with that. Yeah. But the other one was Larry Ogunjobi, who didn't practice again. But Larry Ogunjobi's been on the injury report every day, and he did all right last Monday night. So we'll see how that goes with tomorrow. Other than that, the players who were limited was Minkah was back and limited. Marcus Golden, who was like, oh no, why is he not practicing? He was limited. Isaac Seumalo, this one's interesting. Not injury related, but they listed him as limited. And then Darnell Washington was limited. And then the ones who came back full were DeMonte KZ and Patrick Peterson.
Bryan, what are your thoughts on the injury report?
When I see number 99, Larry Ogunjobi, on an injury report, I don't even consider that. No, wait, hold on, Dave, because you can't come in on my joke here.
Okay.
When I see him on the injury report, I don't even worry about it, because on July 4th, hey, is Larry coming to the picnic? Well, he's questionable. We don't know if he's coming to the picnic. He's on the 4th of July picnic injury list. That's going to be Larry Ogunjobi for the rest of his Steeler career. But what happens? The guy shows up. As far as everybody else, their bumps and bruises that we saw, the fact that Minkah Fitzpatrick says he's going to play, he says, I'm bruised, but I'm playing. That's pretty much what you're looking here. I mean, seeing other guys on there, you hope that they're okay. I don't know what it's going to look like on Friday.
Dave, what do you want to say?
Yeah, there was a change. The cut and paste component was the cut and paste component. So it wasn't my fault, but the Steelers did change to where Seumalo was full. So in other words,
I read that on Let's Ride, and when you said he was limited, I was like, did I make a mistake? Because I read it.
No, he was limited. I literally cut and pasted from the Steelers.com website. He was listed as limited, and he's in the group of players that were limited. Now he's full, but yeah.
Cut and paste component.
The cut and paste component, but at least I can give you that update because that was really curious. Why are you if your coach's decision, then you're going to be limited one day? Okay, so that does make more sense.
Dave, what were your thoughts on the Steelers injury report?
It's all right now. It's really more about Larry O. Unless one of these limited guys has a setback, I expect them to be limited or full tomorrow. I wouldn't be shocked if everyone who was limited is full tomorrow and not even given an injury status. I would not be shocked if Larry O was even limited or full and not have an injury status. But Gunnar O is going to be out. So well, hopefully everything is going in the right direction. But you never know. Bad things can happen in practice. We saw that today with the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, that was a shame. Let's go ahead and talk about the Raiders real quick before we take a break.
Oh, the Raiders injury report. I'm like, of course we're going to talk about the Raiders. That's what the preview is. All right. So when it comes to the Raiders, they had a lot of players bouncing back as well. Davante Adams wasn't even listed today on the report on Steelers.com. You know what? I better refresh the page because they changed stuff so much. It could have happened in the last couple of minutes. He wasn't listed on the report according to Steelers.com, but you've got cornerback Jacorian Bennett with a hamstring was limited for the second straight day. Linebacker Divine Diablo ribs was full after being limited the day before. Same with safety Marcus Epps with a quad. He was full after being limited the day before. Jacoby Myers was moved to being full going through the concussion protocol. Full on Thursday probably means he's going to be all right. Most likely. I mean, occasionally you can have something that goes crazy there, but that doesn't look to be like it's going to be the case. Defensive tackle Bilal Nichols with a hamstring and a hand was limited both days. Two sick players. Safety Chris Smith, the second illness, didn't practice Wednesday, was limited on Thursday. And defensive end Tyree Wilson didn't practice either day due to illness.
Bryan, any thoughts on the Raiders injury report? Muted, Bryan.
I was on another page. Excuse me. When I look at this entire thing, I think of Jacoby Myers, and it makes me nervous because that guy is a very good player. But you have some other guys like Jacorian Bennett and Divine Diablo. They're hitters on that defense. If those guys can't go, that kind of hurts that defense a whole heck of a lot. You know that Chandler Jones, he's not on the injury list, but he's on the reserve not playing list, and that dilutes this defense quite a bit. But knowing that a guy that's not on the injury list, but Davante Adams, who went out in that game, but he's back, he's fine in practice, knowing that he's healthy, and knowing that Jacoby Myers is probably going to be playing, there's a lot of firepower. And then when we talk more about this Raiders team, there's a guy that wasn't on the injury list, but a guy that was good in the past as a wide receiver that's going to be very dangerous alongside those other two. So with those guys healthy, the defensive backs have got to be on their horses.
Dave, what are your thoughts? Anything?
Yeah, I mean, if the guys that are concussed are going to be back to wide receivers, Bryan knows more about this Raiders team, especially getting ready to go out there and watch them and having to produce some podcasts about the Raiders. I think he's heard a thing or two about them within the last 5 months. So I will yield to his knowledge about the subject.
True. It's very true. So, okay, here's what's going to happen. We're going to take a quick break, our first break. And when we come back, we'll be talking about keys to victory, and we'll get into the nuts and bolts of this game. We'll be right back. All right, Steeler fans, we're back. Thank you for hanging in. And let's talk about this game coming up Sunday Night Football. Dave, you had the numbers, and obviously for your stat geek, but there's some similarities between these two teams. When you look at this, Dave, offensively, how do you think the Steelers should approach attacking this Raiders defense? And what should I know it's easy for us to say, well, just try to move the ball because they sucked the last 2 weeks. But if we're trying to put together a plan, what is it?
Honestly, to me, the Steelers offense is dealing with so many struggles. I don't think it's even about the nameless gray faces. I think they really have to focus on doing things. You've got to get your own stuff right before you can worry about what the other guy's doing. And yeah, I know part of the problem is they're not anticipating what the other guy's doing. I don't know that there's anything in particular that they should that they should go into this with a huge game plan to attack, other than to just go in and see if they can get a mix of what they're doing, be able to run it, be able to pass it, various things like that. And most importantly, get some friggin' push off the line of scrimmage. That's about all I can say. And I don't think that has as much to do with the team they're playing as it really does themselves.
Yeah. What about you, Bryan? What's the offensive approach for the Steelers?
See, they thought they had an identity, Jeff and Dave, but they don't. They don't know what their identity is being questioned, and it's not working. And, there's the fire Canada chance, which they don't hear, bull. There's the, Kenny Pickett is being doubted now, and tell me he's hearing that. So now you're starting to grip. So now you've got to get back to what do we need to do when Dave says, get some push up front. You definitely need to get that running game going to set up that passing game. You have got to go downfield, find an opportunity to go downfield a little bit more. They did it more in week 2, not a whole lot more, but a whole heck of a lot more than week 1. So if you can go ahead and do that and spread the ball around, you have a guy named Pat Freiermuth. Use him. You have Connor Hayward. Connor Hayward is going to be nobody's guy on the screen in all 22 saying, oh yeah, we've got to make sure we got to be on him. And guess what? He's going to fool you. He's going to make you pay if you go towards him. Mix things up. Deontay Johnson being out hurts, but no, you have Calvin Austin III. You know he knows how to catch the football. You have George Pickens, who is the most dynamic player on this team, and we've seen it, and I'm saving more about George Pickens for my final thoughts. And you have guys like Freiermuth and Hayward, and you have continue throwing the ball as an outlet to Jaylen Warren. You have so many weapons. Use them and use them smart. Stop being predictable, but try to set up that running game. If you get some push up front, but maybe start with the running game. Maybe start with it, but don't start too much. Just be smart. Mix it up. Again, don't go formula. In fact, scripted plays right now for the Pittsburgh Steelers are more dangerous. I would rather them think it on the fly and get a feel from the first couple plays to see what kind of look they're getting, because sticking with a script doesn't work for them right now with Matt Canada, because he is not innovative enough. He is very myopic. He can only think of one thing. And when you can't think outside the box and you can't adjust on the fly, you are really screwed in the National Football League in 2023.
Dave, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I didn't have the numbers right in front of me that I talked about on Stat Geek, but once I brought them back up, the one thing where I said about really being able to get some push, this is a team that they're going up against a defense that is averaging, it's only 2 games, remember that, only 2 games, but they're giving up 138.5 yards per game on the ground. 4.9 yards per carry average is what the Raiders are surrendering. So this is not the same front and the same stout run defense that the Steelers have seen through 2 weeks. So it's a good opportunity. But when Bryan said about forget the scripted plays, this is what I would like. Let's say you script 20 plays, take those plays, cut them up into little strips, throw them into a hat. All right, here we go. First play, pull one out of the hat, because the order of what you do and stuff is so predictable. The best way to do it is to have it be completely random.
Can't get any worse, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, and there's a
if it's 3rd and 8, don't call a quarterback sneak.
Right.
But I don't think that's a scripted play anyway.
Hope not. I mean,
you never know.
There are some plays circulating Twitter, like just some random gifts that just obviously go in a loop, and the people are just saying, watch a different player on every time you watch this play, and you will see. Someone in the live chat said, literally, is like there's a lack of attention to detail.
Mm-hmm.
You see so many missed assignments, missed blocks, and it wasn't as if the defender made this unbelievable swim move or something like that, and they whiffed because of that. It's atrocious. And Najee Harris somehow, some way, actually gained a yard on the play. And then there was one play where Pat Freiermuth is supposed to seal the edge, and I guess he goes to cut the defender. It looks like he just falls over, and the guy just runs right around him and ends up chasing down the back from the backside and makes a tackle for loss. Some of these little things, like it's easy for us to say, like you got to establish the run. Yeah, you have to. You also have to try and block a little bit better up front for the running backs. It's not, and yes, then you get talking about how they load the box and there's more defenders than there are, people to block and all that good stuff. And yes, it's a mess. It is a mess right now. But the Steelers have to have some type of identity. They have none right now. Bryan mentioned that. I agree 100%. Let's go to the side of the football we actually enjoy talking about right now, and that's defense. When you talk about the defense going up against Jacoby Myers, Devontae Adams, Dave, what are you going to do here? How are you going to try and deal with all that and Josh Jacobs?
Don't give a quarterback time to throw. That's your strength.
Okay.
Just get after him. Go get him. Make them have to keep eligibles in to help, because then that's less eligibles running around for passes in the secondary, which then makes the ones that are out there easier to cover.
Interesting fact. I had Hondo Carpenter on my Let's Ride podcast for tomorrow, Friday. You can all check that out on our audio side. And I didn't know this. The Raiders have not given up a sack yet this season.
They have not.
They have not surrendered a single sack. So that's interesting. Bryan, what about you? What do you think?
Raiders Nation right now, they are very similar to Steeler fans. They were completely demoralized after last week's game, that 38-10 loss to Buffalo, but also they knew that they escaped against Denver. They knew that Denver kind of screwed up in that game as well, and Denver did not play smart, and they kind of got out of the Mile High City with a win, but they had a little bit of luck on their side there. So right now, after that loss, coming fresh off that loss, they kind of feel like I said, demoralized. They kind of feel like, here we go again, and this isn't good. And they're pointing at a lot of things right now. The Josh McDaniels watch for their fans are on. So it's the same as what you're seeing here. Fire Tomlin, fire Canada. You're seeing right now, fire McDaniels. And that's one of those things. So it's very similar what's going on there. But when I think of the offense, it's kind of a tough one to stop. Jimmy Garoppolo is one of those guys that he's just steady. And he does not have to be flashy or do anything, but he could hurt you. We saw how they did against him 3 years ago or 4 years ago now, when that it was Minkah Fitzpatrick's first game. And so I guess it was 2019, 4 years ago. And they actually played very well against a very good 49ers offense there. This is another really good offense. Josh Jacobs is one of the better players in the league. Is he Nick Chubb? No, but he was the leading rusher last year. He's very solid. You've got to pay attention to that guy. And of course, we already talked about how dangerous Devontae Adams can be, how dangerous Jacoby Myers can be. But there's a guy that's only had a couple targets that scares the bejeebers out of me, and it's Hunter Renfrow. They are kind of down on Hunter Renfrow right now on why does he only have 2 targets? Why are you hardly throwing to this guy? What's wrong? This is the kind of game that frightens me because this is where a guy comes alive. Those kind of smaller players against the Steelers defense have done a whole lot better over the years than your big guys. So in a way, I'm kind of more worried about a Hunter Renfrow or a Jacoby Myers than I am Devontae Adams, because they seem to play against those bigger guys a whole lot better and let those little guys victimize them. And Knight Rider 16 says Jacoby Myers catches everything. Yes, he does. Hunter Renfrow is pretty reliable as well, but they don't have Darren Waller. And they do have a prize rookie tight end, but those receivers, if you can go ahead and solve them, you're going to be a whole lot better to slow them down. And you've also got to be able to bottle up Josh Jacobs. And I don't know how easy that absolutely is. I'm still having flashbacks to 2021. It was week 2 in Pittsburgh. I don't know if Dave, were you at that game or not, but that Raiders game, I believe it was 2 years ago, where they had a lot of trouble with this offense, and it was Josh Jacobs that gave them a lot of fits.
Now, the only Raiders, I've been to a Raiders game in Pittsburgh, but it was much earlier than that. That was the it was finished off by Landry Jones. And it was the long run where they were up a bunch, and then the Raiders came back and they had
38-35, I think.
They had the long play down to kick the field goal at the end. The catch and run. Yep, that's the only one I've been at. But no, I wasn't at the other one.
all good stuff. Do you all buy into the last question here before we get to predictions and over-under and stuff? Do you all buy into the Raiders West Coast thing now that they're in Vegas? I know Dave talked about this on Stat
We'll talk about that a little bit later.
Uses your trivia?
No, not exactly, but no. But I mean, not exactly. Somewhat, but yeah. Not about the Steelers though. They've never been to Vegas. They've never been to Vegas.
Right.
So I'm not counting that against
I guess my question is, do you think the West Coast issues were more with Ben or something else?
Well, that's what I'm hoping too. That's why I brought up this is a different team and this is a different location. So it's really hard to say that, it's going to definitely be bad or good or whatever. I'm hoping, hey, they should look at this one as, yes, they're going west, but it's a clean slate because they didn't go west at all last year, did they?
No,
because their furthest trip was Miami. So that this is the first time without Ben Roethlisberger being in the picture. I mean, obviously they played in San Francisco the first game without Ben. That's like you said, that's the only time Jimmy G's faced the Steelers. Someone asked that in the live chat. That's the only game. So I'm not sold on that should be a huge factor because I don't want it to start a trend. I have a feel it's the perfect opportunity for that to not be an issue.
Bryan, what about you?
I consider Vegas a lot in the manner that I consider Denver. That is your far Midwest. I also consider it a lot like Arizona as well, because I don't consider Arizona a West Coast team as much as I would, when they played in San Diego. Now the 2 Los Angeles teams, even Seattle and San Francisco. So playing out there, but it's out West. It's a different time zone. So yeah, you know what? I kind of group that all into it. It's not as far west, but it's still west enough.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Well, obviously, I guess we'll talk about this a little bit more later.
No. Just another factor in there.
Yeah, it's okay. All right. And so again, we're going to take another quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk over under. We're going to give our predictions, and then we'll dive into trivia. We'll be right back. All right, Steeler fans, it's time for my favorite part of the show. It's time for Over Under, where we play a little game every week, see who can try and project how the Steelers do individually and as a team. Dave, do you have the updated standings there?
Now, did you want them overall, or did you just want last week's?
Well, we
I
can do
went
both,
overall.
can't we?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, now, so I just got to add them up. Brian, how many did you have going into last week? You had
probably
had 2.
one.
No, you had
really?
2 the week before, and
Wow.
Brian has a total of 2. Jeff, you were at 3. You now have a grand total of 4.
Yeah.
I was at 2, and I now have a grand total of 6. I got 4 out of the 5 right. You got, Dave, I hate to see what your prediction's going to be with all these terrible over-unders. The only one I missed was the one we all had the same, and that was George Pickens under 65.5.
Yeah.
But because, I had TJ Watt under on 2.5 sacks. I had Kenny Pickett still never thrown 2 touchdown passes. So I had that under. You guys had the overs. And Calvin Austin only had 1 reception. So that was the other one. And then the takeaways, the Steelers, Jeff and I, we had that one right, that the Steelers, they went a little bit over the 1.5. So which was really, really nice. So that was the results from last week.
All right, y'all ready? We're going to do 5 again this week.
All right, I got to find a new spot.
We're going to start with the individual players, and then we'll bleed our way into the team stuff. So individual players, Kenny Pickett, total passing yards. I've got the over-under set at 205. Brian, we'll start with you this week.
Okay. Every time I give Kenny the benefit of the doubt, it doesn't go well, but yeah, over.
Dave?
205 is a pretty good. He was over that last week, wasn't it? I had a bet where I had Kenny with the over and Deshaun Watson with the under and everything. Now, these are Kenny Pickett passers. This isn't net, right? So we're not taking off sacks.
Not taking off sacks.
For that reason, I'm going to go over. I think he can go over 205.
All right, we're all 3 taking the over there at 205. Let's go to Calvin Austin, the third receptions. So receptions. And I'm keeping this actually the same line, I believe. Yeah. We're going 4.5 again. We're going 4.5 receptions. Calvin Austin the third. Brian, what do you got?
I'm going to go under this time.
Okay. Dave?
Yeah. Now Brian and I are being all agreeing and everything. I think he could get 4. I don't know. I could see him getting a lot of yards, but on not many catches because he could maybe break something, but I don't know that they're just going to constantly feed him the ball. So I'm going to say
give me the over. I think he's going to be targeted more than we think. Okay, let's go with Pittsburgh Steelers sacks. The sacks of a Raiders quarterback, not those that are surrendered. And we're saying 2.5. I have to keep it low based on the fact that the Raiders haven't even surrendered a sack yet this season. Brian, what do you think?
Over. I don't care. I don't care about that fact. It's, you know what? The every single team that played the San Francisco 49ers the week before lost the next week. Well, that didn't happen. So, they're going to give up sacks. You've got TJ Watt. You've got Alex Highsmith. You're going to get sacked. Boom.
All right. Dave?
Brian, here's what's interesting. I write down my response before you give your answer. I also had over, so you and I are agreeing twice. I think they can get 3. If they don't, I think they're in trouble. I think it's a big key to their success.
I'm taking the over, and I'm going to call it right now that Mr. Herbig gets his first NFL sack. He would have had it last week, but a face mask got in the way.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's go to the next one. Pittsburgh Steelers turnovers. They have yet to have a clean slate game where they haven't turned the ball over. I've got the line at 1.5. Brian, what do you think?
I am going to go with the over.
No. Dave.
Yeah, I was hoping I would be the opposite of Brian this time. I'm going to go a little bit more optimistic of them. For some reason, I feel like on the road, you could even see a little bit more caution. They might try to be a little more cautious because turnovers are bad at home. They're even worse on the road. So I'm going to go under.
I, too, am going under. I think that if anything, we're going to see the Steelers revert back to their shell offensively like they did in the second half last year and just say, look, don't F it up. And so we might see a lot of that type of play. So I'm going to take the under. And the last one, the Steelers have been taking the ball away at a very nice clip, coming off of 4 against the Browns on Monday night. I have this tempered a little bit. 1.5 Steelers takeaways. 1.5, Brian, over under.
Yeah, I could see 2. Over.
Okay. Dave?
Just like that. 1.5, just like last week. I'm going over again.
I will take over as well. I think this is a good trend that has started for the Steelers, and I think we'll take the over there. All right.
We agreed on 3 of the 5, all 3 of us, and all of them were in the over.
That's good. Well, I hope.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Now, all right. Hey, it's only good if we're right. Correct.
That's true. That is correct. Okay. Now, we here at the Steel Curtain Network and several other people at Fans First Sports Network are sponsored by MyBookie. And the current line on MyBookie has the Steelers getting 2.5 points. They've been underdogs in every single game this year. It's the first road trip. So the Steelers are getting 2.5 on the road. And the over-under is set at 43 points. It is prediction time, gentlemen. Dave, I'm going to let you go first. And what is your prediction? How do you see this?
I get to go first. Okay. So hold on. So it was the Steelers are 2.5. They're plus 2.5.
Steelers plus 2.5 over under 43. Even.
43.430, right?
Yep.
Oh, so there could be the push. Well, here's what I'm thinking. Still don't have a lot of faith in this offense. Offense scored technically 12 points last week because they went for 2 and didn't get it, or else it would have been the 13. I think the Steelers are going to put up maybe they'll get that extra point this week. But I think they're going to get another non-traditional score. This time I think it might come in the punt game with the return there. So I'm not, because I don't know that I trust the offense to score more than 13 points. But for some reason, I just don't know why I have the Steelers 20-16. So that would be the under.
Okay. Brian, what about you?
All right. So we are going to go back into the bad files here, and we're going to go back to the year 2005 when one Brian Anthony Davis spent way too much money on a ticket to go see the Pittsburgh Steelers on Monday Night Football in San Diego. This was the famous Debo jumping over LaDainian Tomlinson game. This was a very exciting game where they won on a last-second field goal, being down 22-21. I'm going with that same score since I am going to be in stadium. I am going to be there, and I'm going to say 24-22. So let's take the over, and Chris Boswell gets it at the gun, just like Skippy Reed did all those years ago.
Wasn't that the game that Ben got rolled up on, left the game?
Very late in that game. Yeah.
Didn't Schwarzenegger come out before that and give like a rousing "Go Chargers, go"?
Yeah, and that is. I've told you the story about it was 75% Steeler fans. It was the first Monday Night Football game in 9 years because of like mudslides, canceled one a couple of years before. And this young lady, she was in the PR department, and I've watched this again. It's funny. They had a drill sergeant or somebody from the military going, "Are you ready?" Because it's Monday Night Football. And so she comes out and goes, "Okay, Sergeant Mike or soever is going to come out and he is going to say, 'Are you ready?' And you're going to wave your towels." And they gave us this little washcloth sponsored by Pepsi that said 100% chance of lightning. I still have that. And as soon as she said, "Wave your white towels," the Steeler Nation went crazy with a "Here we go Steeler" chant. Here we go. And she stuttered and said, "Come on, guys, we're in San Diego." And Steeler fans smell blood. And you know what they did? They got even louder. And she just walked away. And it was great. Yeah. So I didn't see Schwarzenegger because he was in the booth. So he really didn't say anything to the fans. But he was the governor at the time, also the governator, I guess. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that was a big night there. And Skippy Reed got him in the end. Everybody went home sad that was wearing blue.
That was a good game. I remember that game. So I think this is going to be a lower scoring game. And I had my prediction already recorded for Let's Ride tomorrow morning. So Dave's didn't get me at all. I think it's going to be a little bit more traditional. I see this as an under game. I think the Steelers find a way to win. I actually have gone back and I've thought about the game, watched a little bit of the Monday night game. And while it was tough to watch, there were some signs of life. Like here or there are some signs of life. There's a little blip on the EKG, like, oh my gosh, we have a pulse. And if they could just keep trending in the right direction, then maybe there's hope. But I think they score 20 points. I think the Steelers win 20-17. And they have
real close.
Yeah, real close. So 20-17 is my final score. They win their second game. They stack wins, and then they get ready for a road trip to Houston in week 4. So we all three have them winning this week. Last week, I was the only one to pick the Steelers. We'll see how it goes.
Still don't have a lot of confidence in the offense, but
no, of course not.
But honestly, rightfully so. Rightfully so.
I go into more in-depth analysis on my prediction on Let's Ride, and I talk about how I think there's going to be some defensive takeaways that set up the Steelers' offense for success. Yeah. I'm not saying they score points like they did on Monday night.
I don't know. For some reason, I'm feeling like a punt return is going to do something.
Maybe.
I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't
know.
That's
my bold. That's not really that bold.
Sure, it is. They haven't had a punt return for a touchdown since 2019.
Yeah,
that's a bold prediction. So okay, trivia wise, Bryan, do you have one?
Absolutely, I do, and it is a bizarre one. But, so I did this last week, and I'm going to do it again this week, and it's a lot less. But my trivia question last week was, hey, Browns and Steeler quarterbacks that they threw the ball for both teams. No Jake Shiner this week, Jeff. It's a spoiler. And it's really interesting because Jeff usually, he's in his head right now, he's saying, look, I'm out because, it's too long ago. You're going to bring up like a guy that I've never heard of. Actually, this has happened in the 2000s. So I am bringing up 3 guys here. And I believe this to be correct. 3 players in the 2000s that have played for both or have been on rosters for both the Raiders and the Steelers, black and silver, black and gold. Who are those 3?
Bruce
quarterbacks,
Gronkowski.
Correct?
Bruce
quarterbacks.
Gronkowski.
Quarterbacks, okay. Landry Jones.
Yes.
Because he was there with AB, right?
This last one, actually, I'm going to give you a hint, and the hint's not very good, but the hint was he's
never been in your kitchen. Oh, sorry.
He has never been in my kitchen, but I would love to have him in my kitchen. But he has something to do with Steelers lore and one of the Raiders' minority owners.
This is another Brian Hoyer.
No, it's not Brian. Was Brian Hoyer ever on the?
I don't know.
Not that I know of.
He's on every single team.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Did this quarterback start for either team?
I don't know if he ever had a start for either team.
Okay.
But he was a backup. And remember, think about one of the Raiders' minority owners. And think about the fact that this guy was drafted before and instead of him.
Oh, you're talking Tom. Oh, then it's got to be T. Martin.
It is T.
Did he play for the Raiders?
Yes. Yeah, I didn't know that until I looked this up.
I didn't know that either. But no, yeah, when you said I forgot about Tom Brady. Technically, that sale hasn't gone through yet, right?
Not official now.
But yeah, I forgot about that because the Steelers with Colbert drafted T. Martin ahead of Tom Brady. That was a good hint, Brian. Actually.
All right,
there you go. That's my triv.
Dave, what's your triv?
Okay, so we talked a little bit about the Steelers and their struggles going out west and everything, but we have to remember they've never played in Vegas. So I actually have a couple little things. It's kind of trivia. It's almost as much little fun facts, little nuggets that just didn't get discovered in time for Stat Geek. But the Las Vegas Raiders became the Las Vegas Raiders playing their games there in 2020. They have in all 25 games played in Las Vegas. out of those 25 games, how many wins do they have?
Can you say that again, Dave, please?
Since 2000, when Raiders moved to Vegas, they have now played 25 games in Las Vegas in that stadium.
Okay.
How many wins do the Raiders have in Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas of those 25 games?
I'm going to say 11.
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to up and I'm going to go 13.
I almost just cut you off and say, yeah, you don't need to. Jeff won the $100. He hit it right on.
Wow.
They are 11-14. They are 11-14. Now, in that same time period, they're 14-14 on the road. That's including playoffs. So the Raiders don't even play as well in Vegas as they do other places, which is interesting. But when I looked that up, I also found another thing that was interesting. They have 25%, about 25. 6 of the 25 games, almost 25% in that stadium have gone to overtime. The Raiders are 3-3 in overtime. And I'm like, that's real. I think that's kind of high. How many games at Heinz Field do you think Heinz Field / Acrisure Stadium has ever gone to overtime? Since 2001 when it opened.
Well, I will tell you this. I have been at both ties. The Atlanta Falcons in 2002 and in 2021.
You were at the Browns game? Oh no, wait. The Brown that was in Cleveland, wasn't it?
Then there was the Lions tie too.
No, it was the Lions tie.
Yeah,
I was sitting in my seats.
Yeah, I was at the Lions and I was at the Falcons in 2002.
Yeah.
So I was at two. I've been at two ties.
Yeah.
So
this wasn't ties. This is how many overtimes.
Well,
yeah, they have to go to overtime.
Overtimes. Yeah. So
I'm gonna guess 9.
I was going to go 8 before Jeff said 9.
I don't think there's been that many.
There's been a lot of games there. It's actually 13, which still isn't very much. That's 6.7%. But just to put that in perspective, I looked up how many overtime games there have been, regular season, postseason, since 2000, since the Raiders moved to Vegas. And that's been 56 out of 870. So that's only 6.4%. So don't be shocked if it's an overtime game on Sunday night, because that kind of seems to be a trend going on in Vegas.
Okay. Hey, 2017 Boswell nails a field goal to win it. There you go. I'll take it. Okay, let's go with final thoughts. Bryan, go ahead.
All right. So something that has been, this is my new word, by the way, rankling me. And so I'm rankled. And we have heard so many negative things coming out this week. But one of the stupidest things that I have heard in the longest time coming out of Pittsburgh media or speculation or social media, I don't know what it is, but it's that the Steelers are intentionally not targeting George Pickens to keep his price down so they don't lose him in free agency. If you haven't heard that, I have read that a few times, and I think it is the stupidest thing I have ever heard. Absolutely ridiculous. Now, I will say this to anybody. He had 10 targets. 10 targets against the Cleveland Browns. Now, how many did he pull down? Was it 3? Was it 5? I can't remember. 4? But there were 10 targets in that game. So with that being said, oh yes, it was Florio that said that.
I was going to say, what idiot said that? But
it was Florio. And so for me, are you even paying attention? So that's not keeping targets down. No, they want to get the ball to him. They're trying to get the ball to them. They are not able to get the ball to him right now. But that is this, like I said, bizarre. I lose respect for you when I hear something like that. The last thing I'm going to say is, yes, we talked about it the other day. I am going to the game. I will be there at Allegiant Stadium, and it'll be 5 o'clock there when at time. So I am going to, I have no plans, but just to, if there's Steel Curtain Network fans, Steeler Nation, I want to hang out with you. So if you're there, let me know. My Twitter handle is up on the screen again. I will go ahead. I'm going to do my best to do a little check-in on YouTube as well. So I'll try to do some stuff like that. But I would absolutely love to see anybody that bleeds black and gold and hang out with y'all. It is going to be just a once-in-a-lifetime thing for me. And you guys make this possible for all of us, the three of us on here. And I would just love a high five, a fist bump, and just say hello to anybody that is a part of our Steel Curtain Network family. And it's all of you in the live chat, all of you driving in your cars right now. I think a lot of people are planning on going to this game. There's going to be a lot of black and gold. Please look me up.
You wearing black and gold?
I will be wearing black and gold now.
All right. All right. Dave, final thoughts. Go ahead.
Well, Bryan, listen to that. Come on. You got to realize you can't really trust any take like that coming out of someone that came from Wheeling. So just
oh, no.
Because isn't Florio from Wheeling? Is that what it is?
Well, yeah, he was there for a time. He's more Clarksburg.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I used to live in Clarksburg. Wait a second.
He did go to Wheeling Central Catholic, which is
okay. So, all right. Just had to put that out there. Sorry about that, Jeff. But anyway. Well, when Big Bro Sco and I talked about this game way back when the schedule came out, remember, we take the approach of what would be a great game to go to as a Steelers fan. This one, or I think it was Seattle, might have been the other one, were the two main road games. To me, I thought this was the road game to go to out of all road games. I mean, my goodness, go to Vegas. Before they moved to Vegas, I had an idea of the NFL expanding to 17 games, not having a different number of home and away games, and having every team play a game on a neutral site. And I said Las Vegas would be a great place to play a different NFL game every weekend because people will go there to watch it. So, but instead they just put a team there in that. But that's what's going to happen. People are going to go there to watch it. I expect to see a lot more gold than silver. Maybe not more, but a lot. I really do. But the Steelers offense, they've got to be taking steps forward. We can't just sit back and see the same old la-di-da, this is awful. Now, you could put that on, could Kenny Pickett be more accurate? Yes, he could. Could the offensive scheme and play calling be better? Yes, it could. But for me this week, what I want to see the Steelers take a step is I want to see this offensive line start coming together and do something against their opponent that maybe yes, you've got Crosby on the team, but this is not the Browns defensive front. This is not the 49ers defensive front. This is a time where the offensive line needs to start taking a step forward in the right direction. I don't expect them to be perfect, but come on, make that leap. That'll give the offense a chance to do some more. That's what I want to see. Sunday night, let's get it done.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Good job, gentlemen. We'll be back next week for another Steelers preview. Bryan, will you be back with us or no? I can't remember.
I will not, but I could always I'm a game time decision. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
But I would think at this point, no.
Okay. You'll definitely see Dave and myself on the post-game show. You might see a little impromptu pop in from Bryan on the road at the stadium, which will be pretty cool. So you'll hear from him. But make sure you check us out on all our audio platform, not just our shows that are simulcast on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, but also like Dave Schofield's Stat Geek, My Let's Ride, Bryan's Bad Language. Check them all out wherever you get your podcast by searching Steel Curtain Network or just Steelers. Good show, gentlemen. As always, take it easy. Dave, why don't you send us out?
Hey.
See you next week.
Curtain Network. Get it.
Everybody else gets a little tight.